Take me back to the moment when you said, I'm going to live to be 150.
Something in the longevity industry that we discuss is the longevity escape velocity with the advent of AI and just the birth of superintelligence, that we can actually restore or age backwards.
People I've talked to in the radical life extension don't just think they're going to live to 150. They think they're going to cure death.
Our views are pretty controversial.
We might be doing like these NADIVs and stem cells and hyperbaric and all this stuff.
It seems that this schedule you have is so rigid, so incredibly tightly controlled. Why?
If God is blessing us with these medical interventions, then it's probably okay to use them.
Let's say this all works. You're 125, and one of you goes. One of you kicks the bucket. Would you keep doing it? Do you want to live forever? How about just for a really, really long time? I don't know. I'd like to live forever, but not in this mortal coil. Yet there are some who are endeavoring to live 100 years, 120 years, maybe 150 years by biohacking themselves and turning the power of science and technology toward radical life extension. Like my two guests today, Warren Lentz and Kayla Barnes-Lentz. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
For having us.
So I was going to offer you a cigar right off the top, but that would be too healthy to begin.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's too much.
Maybe later on in the show.
Yes.
What is your routine? Before we get into when you decided you want to live to 150, why you want to live to 150, what that really means, not when you're in your 30s and 40s, but when you're in your 130s and 140s.
Yeah.
But what is your day like? What are you actually doing to extend your lives that much?
Yeah. So definitely I love covering the basics. So things like exercise, high quality nutrition, to kind of walk you through what I call our morning routine. First thing, we get sunlight into the eyes. So that helps to actually wake up the brain and body, and it sets your circadian rhythm. So many individuals have problems with sleep, right? And we know that sleep is like the foundation of great health and longevity. So by getting the morning sun, it actually will help your sleep later in the day. So we start there. And then we typically do a little bit of time of prayer. That can look like meditation or prayer or Bible, something to really set your mind before the day sets it for you. And we do this on PEMF, or pulsed electromagnetic field therapy mats. So we have two of them set up in the chairs at the house. So Warren and I can do it together. So what it kind of is it's similar to grounding. So have you heard of the benefits of like making contact with the earth, grounding?
No.
Okay, so it is anti-inflammatory to the body, and we have something called cellular energy. So I've actually do testing of my body's voltage, and we want to keep it higher to maintain that vitality and that energy. So we do PEMF, then we both do our separate workouts. When we think about workout programming, we want to hit all of the metrics for longevity. So we have cardiovascular training, we have VO2 max. Are you familiar with VO2 max?
I'm not.
So VO2
Probably most things that you say when it comes to personal fitness and health, you say, Michael, have you ever heard of this?
Yeah.
I will not have heard of it.
Okay, all right. Good.
You heard of dumbbells? Barely.
Okay, good to know. So VO2 max is essentially how much oxygen your lungs can use and your body can use. So it's a big metric of longevity. So if you're at home and you want to just start looking at some longevity metrics, you could do VO2 max testing. So in workouts, we have cardiovascular training, the VO2 max strength, really important because as we age, we become more frail. Particularly for women, we have bone loss, muscle loss, so strength workouts are really important. And I focus on power because we want to keep those fast twitch muscle fibers really strong.
Yeah, so like most things, as we go through our day, it's through the lens of, okay, is this adding to our goal or is this taking away from it, right?
And the goal being longevity.
The goal being, is it serving our bodies? Is it helping us or is it taking away? So for example, there were a lot of foods I used to eat which might not be like negatively unhealthy, but they're not like positive. There's not a lot of nutrient density, right? So for me, over the past few years, I've kind of transitioned from, looking at food just from like a utility or like, entertainment to also being like, okay, is this providing my body something that will help me live longer and recharge or recover, or is it going to give my body something that it needs?
So what are some of the foods you've given up?
Well, as soon as we started dating, I gave up. It's always embarrassing for me, but I gave up Diet Coke. I know.
You can never work in the Trump administration now. There's no place for you.
No, that's Well, now we got RFK, so
that's true.
We'll see what happens. I gave up that. One thing I still eat occasionally that I shouldn't is organic popcorn, because it's not adding anything to my body. I'm like, it is empty. So I'm like, you're right, but
that's your guilty pleasure is organic popcorn.
That's in our bad stack.
Yeah, that's in the bad drawer.
That's the only thing in my good drawer. Hold on,
Warren has one bad snack drawer and has the organic popcorn in it.
Yeah, which I'm slowly, getting that to be less and less. So, it's a lot easier to do this with a partner because, before we met, I was healthy. I was probably like an 8 out of 10. Now I'm like trying to be, 10 out of 10. She's the healthiest human I've ever met in my life. Yeah. So, when we went on our first date a year and a half ago, or, almost 2 years ago, she hadn't had any food that was not organic in over a decade.
Yeah.
So I was like, whoa.
When did they invent organic? I didn't even think organic was that old.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's definitely been around, I think, for about a decade.
Yeah.
But that's when I first kind of became aware of it. This has been a really slow build. Now we have like hyperbaric chambers in our house and all of this really kind of.
Hold on. You can't just elide over that.
Okay.
You have hyperbaric. That's like an oxygen tank, basically.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You have them in your house.
Yeah. Actually, our first date was also in a hyperbaric chamber.
Yeah. Kinky.
Yeah.
How does that come? Do you say, well, listen, forget about Netflix and chill. Come on over and we'll just sit in an oxygen tank. And can you do that together, or you got to be separate to do that?
No, we did it together. So when we were dating long distance, I was in Ohio, he was in LA. So he came to Ohio, and I have a longevity medicine clinic. So I picked him up from the airport, and we went right to the clinic. And I'm like, let's hop in the hyperbaric chamber and get to know each other.
Yeah. And it's very intimate.
It was close space. It was intimate.
I was like, you're going to be in here for an hour, so are you sure you want to proceed? And he did. Yeah.
So this is just to get your oxygen levels up?
Yeah, there's actually a lot of research for brain health. There have been studies that show that it lengthens the telomeres, which are end caps of DNA, and they're another, biological age marker. So as we get older, the telomeres shorten, and then the DNA can become exposed to damage. So hyperbaric has been shown to lengthen them.
Yeah, so for people who aren't familiar, imagine getting in a small submarine and the amount of pressure that you would feel if you were like maybe 100, 200 feet under the ocean. That pressure in this chamber is helping push the oxygen into your cells. So you're also, breathing, pure oxygen as you're feeling all this pressure. So you can be in there for like an hour, and it is so good for you.
Do you feel better after you do it?
Yeah. I mean, I feel a lot of cognitive benefits, like right away, like increased focus and mental clarity. And then the benefits really accumulate over time. So for best outcomes, usually,
40.
We have a medical team too that puts together all these protocols for us. So it's typically starting with 40 sessions.
Okay, so you wake up, you get the sunlight, then you sit on the electric chair, it juices your cells up real nice. Then you go into the hyperbaric oxygen tank and you feel the pressure of a submarine on your bodies and it gets your blood oxygenated.
Yep.
Is it lunchtime yet? What do we do?
Well, right after working out, we usually eat. So we'll have, I prepare all the meals for us at home. So we eat all organic, biodynamic, more like a Mediterranean style diet. But when it comes to nutrition, we just focus on single ingredients. So if it's in a package, then we try to avoid that. So lots of like olive oil and avocado and wild caught fish. And, we do incorporate some red meat into there. But just really single ingredient, high quality nutrition we focus on. So we have breakfast, and then we used to do the sauna in the morning, but we've now moved it to our evening routine. So then I go into, and we kind of swap off because we only have one device. So I use something called a Nanovi, which is great for reducing oxidative stress. You use a little nasal cannula, and it reduces oxidative stress, improves protein folding. We also do a hair protocol. So we're trying to embark on this new experiment to see how thick we can get our hair. So we use like a red light cap on the hair, and I continue the PEMF, and then I walk as much as possible, and he does too. We try to hit at least 10,000 steps throughout the day.
Yeah, so our day is basically like 20 health modalities kind of sprinkled into like work and meals and stuff, and they're fun, we enjoy them, but each one has its own purpose, and it could probably be a 20-minute conversation. So there's so many things to talk about on this topic.
But this is your whole day. Now, it helps, I suppose, that it's part of your job
Yes.
is to, promote these things.
Yeah.
But like for your average middle manager at the paperclip company in Ohio,
Yeah.
there's not a ton of time to do all of this. And I assume it's got to be very expensive.
Yes, the industry is currently quite expensive, but I like to say, when we sequenced the first genome, it cost $2.3 billion, I believe. It took 13 years, and now you can get a genetics test for a couple $100. So I think the more that we talk about this and normalize it and the demand increases, I'm hoping that the cost does start to decrease.
Do you mind my asking, for right now, 2025, you guys doing this from the chairs to the chambers to the nice wild-caught fish, do you have a rough estimate on how much you spend on health-promoting costs, household, every year?
I think we kind of landed on it's around six figures. I mean, but the hyperbaric chamber is expensive, and we really base this all too on lab tests. So we have an insane amount of data. So we look at our gut test, we look at total toxin testing. So it's looking at environmental toxins, heavy metals, molds, and mycotoxins. We look at our actual nutrient statuses. So to develop our supplement protocols, we have our blood drawn, and then we see what we're deficient in. So then we target those supplements based on what we need. Of course, we're doing a couple hundred different blood biomarkers every quarter, and we do full body MRIs called Prenuvo. We do clearly soft plaque analysis, so it'll actually look inside the vessels to see if there's any soft plaque buildup. So we really go deep into the data, and if anyone's really looking to optimize, having your own data is so important. We've also done genetic tests. Actually, I sent Warren some tests before our first date.
I had to pass the application.
Well, of course. It's so romantic.
He was excited about it, though. So I was like, I think he's the one. Yeah.
Looking at this gut health, I think I've found Prince Charming here.
Yeah.
So, okay. I get the day. It's very intense, but I get the logic of it.
We haven't gotten to the nighttime routine yet, but yes.
Oh, that's just through the afternoon.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you do at night?
So Warren usually gets home, or we start our wind down at about 5. So really important to stop eating before or when the sun sets.
Yeah.
So at 5:30, we're done eating because you want to allow your body time to digest, because we also track our sleep and our sleep performance and score. So we're done eating by 5:30.
Now, just hypothetically, imagine like if you were to go to the refrigerator and get a nice roll-up of pepperoni and provolone, this is just off the top of my head, at like about 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night for you, that would not be good.
We would be in bed by 8:30.
Okay.
So we'd be asleep. But yeah, definitely if you want to improve your sleep quality and you're at home, stopping eating earlier is definitely ideal. We are always done by the time the sun sets, because that's more in line with our circadian biology as well. Our ancestors were probably not eating all day long. So we do that, and then at sunset, all the lights in the house go red. So we want to block out that blue light, because we know that the blue light suppresses our melatonin production. So watching, giving all of your time to Netflix and really binging, is not really ideal for sleep. So red lights are on. We take a long walk. It's about 50 minutes or so through the hills, which is some good zone 2 cardio. And then we do something relaxing. So cuddle, read, something of that nature. We do a sauna about 2 hours prior to bed. So it actually can help improve your sleep, but you don't want to do it too close to bed, because then it will increase your heart rate. And we have red light therapy built in as well. So we're doing red light and sauna at the same time.
Yeah, the eating thing was hard for me at first, because I'm someone who used to stay up till 10, 11, watching YouTube, maybe eating later than I should. But as soon as I made these, just basic lifestyle, changes, my natural testosterone levels went up 200 points naturally from her helping me, get on track. So that was like a massive eye-opening
You think
thing.
that was mostly the food and the sleep thing?
Yeah. Oh, I think, there were a few other factors as well, some, detoxing and stuff, but before, when we started dating, I was on for 4 or 5 months, the smallest dosage of TRT, because I wanted to take it from, I think, 550 to 750, but it's not great for fertility. I started talking with her more about what that looked like. So I got off of it, made these changes. And then a few months later, I'd gone up to 916.
What are you supposed to be?
So for men, my age, I'm now 37. I think the average is anywhere from 500 to 600, maybe, which is not good. It should be higher.
Yeah, I mean, the range is massive, but we know that testosterone is just tanking at this point in, society. And same thing with fertility. So it's really something for me, I think it was important to focus on. But yeah, we put him through like a gut health optimization protocol, a detox. He increased, healthy foods and some workout stuff. And it was amazing that we could get it. That's very high for someone his age naturally.
So, all right, you brought it up.
Yeah.
This seems difficult enough, just the two of you with ample wealth in a nice place in California where you can buy these kinds of things.
Yeah.
What happens? One, do you plan to have children? Two, what happens when you have children and they don't want to let you sit in the hyperbaric chamber for an hour?
Well, we want to have a lot of children. So very excited. I feel like I've been preparing my body, for optimal fertility, as I would say, hopefully, God willing. But yeah, I mean, we would love to have 5+ children.
All right.
So,
Love that.
Yeah. We're going to start trying later this year. And it's such a good question, not being parents. Maybe Warren, you speak on this.
Yeah. So this is like a big question of like, okay, once the kids come, how are we going to, kind of bring them into this ecosystem of like, health? Like a lot of people will say, well, what about Halloween? Or they'll go to their friend's house and eat, sugar or candy. So the goal is that we, teach them and, kind of train them, hey, food is like, fuel for your body. Do you want to like put high quality fuel in or do you want to like feel bad? And, there's a few ways that we thought about doing it, but, we're not there yet. So we're just kind of like speculating. And I'm sure a lot of parents out there are like, oh my gosh, these guys have no idea what they're in for once they have kids. And to an extent, that's true. But, I do think, if this is our standard and this is just how we're living, like we're excited to, bless them with really high quality food.
Yeah.
And,
Well, I guess what I suspect the issue will be is not Halloween or a birthday party or something like that, but more when your 3-year-old just wants to scream for like 90 minutes straight and you were supposed to go to your sauna and then go take a walk and go eat a bunch of leafy greens. Like that, it seems that this schedule you have is so rigid, so incredibly tightly controlled. The moment you introduce the radical of the children into that all goes to pot.
Yeah, that's what the comments all say on my posts. But, we're going to do our best. We're definitely going to do our best. And I mean, I thrive off of a really disciplined schedule.
Yeah.
And plus I feel so good. If I was doing all this stuff and I didn't feel amazing, I don't think I would be as incentivized to continue doing it, right? Like, I mean, his story with the testosterone. I mean, yes, it was a shift for him to change his sleep schedule, but now he wakes up naturally every day, like bursting with energy and just is able to dominate the day. So the results, not only for long-term health, but like right now are really exciting.
Now, a big part of Americans' diets right now, forget about, red meat and fish and leafy greens. It's mostly SSRIs and contraception, especially for women. I think it's like 1 in 5 women are on depression pills. Huge percentage of American women are on. It depends which kind of contraception you're talking about, but huge, majority of sexually active American men and women use contraception or have used contraception. So where does that fit in with the healthy lifestyle? Do you kill off the SSRIs and because you figure if you're concerned about changes to your hormones from a bottle of Coca-Cola, probably taking some massive hormonal birth control is that's probably not great either, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I'm certainly not on it, and we're not on any SSRIs. I mean, of course, I want to preface it with always talk to your doctor, but I think because our diets and lifestyles have become, this is more so on like mental health. We know that mental health is the #1 disability worldwide, which is absolutely so sad. But look at how we're treating our bodies. I mean, if you eat garbage, you kind of might feel like garbage. You know what I mean? So our gut and our brain are directly connected. We know that. And so our gut actually houses most of our serotonin, which is our, it's known as the happiness chemical. So when our gut's completely imbalanced and our serotonin production's off, then of course our mood is going to be really disrupted. So I would encourage people, of course, don't just stop something cold turkey, but look at other alternatives, like get morning sun, move your body, work out, give yourself a chance to have a better mood. In terms of birth control, I mean, that was something that was very important to me many years ago to get off of. It's a synthetic form of these hormones, which we know is not bioidentical, not best for the body. I truly think it's a huge scam that has been put onto women, that no matter what you go in for, if you're a young girl, the recommendation is going to be birth control. If you have skin issues, birth control. If you,
I stubbed my toe.
It's literally anything. It's just birth control, birth control.
They put these girls on it at age 12.
Absolutely.
I mean, very young.
And I mean, it's not natural to the body. It does disrupt, your natural cycle and the way that it's meant to happen. And so I'm not a fan of it. There are better versions than not just the oral contraceptive if someone really needs to do that.
It's tough though, because if we say what we really think sometimes on Facebook or something, like there's so many other people that are against what we were, in favor of, getting rid of, that, we have to be somewhat careful because our views are pretty controversial, not as much as they were a couple years ago, thank God.
Yeah.
But
and what's funny though is your views are not all that different than views people would have held 60 years ago. At least when it comes to food. I don't know, maybe some of the longevity stuff is a little still out there. But at least when it comes to food, eat healthy, exercise, eat your meals at home, try to get to bed early, wake up with the sunlight. I mean, this is stuff that your grandma probably would have encouraged.
Basic stuff.
Yeah.
Totally.
Don't take a bunch of synthetic hormones so you can have promiscuous sex with people who don't like you. This was your granny's advice until the middle of the 20th century when things seem to have become so out of whack.
Yeah, cornflakes and margarine, and they started flipping everything, and
I've noticed even with my kids, because my wife's pretty dictatorial when it comes to their food and things, but if my kids, they go to someone's house, they eat a Twinkie, they're watching too much TV or they see an iPad or something, their behavior immediately becomes much worse. And I wonder, that probably doesn't just stop when you're a kid. Like if I'm just eating junk food all the time and loafing around and binging Netflix for hours, that probably affects my behavior too. I mean, my mood. Maybe I'm a little, no wonder people are depressed.
Yeah, and one thing you said earlier is, imagine when we have kids, if we have, a 3-year-old that's crying and we might not be able to do something else. Well, my first question is, why is a 3-year-old, throwing a tantrum for the last 20 minutes? Maybe, there's a lot of natural reasons, but maybe it's also because you're feeding them poison that their body should not be exposed to.
Although in my experience, now some three kids under the age of 4, some you can feed them like the real nice yellow yolks with the special chickens, but sometimes, man, they're just throwing that tantrum. That's Aristotle though. I tell my wife this. I say, Aristotle said it is good to let your kids cry for a really long time because it exercises their lungs. So I'm making the health argument to neglect our children. She doesn't buy it. You said you get in trouble for posting things on Facebook. What's the most controversial? What is the thing that got you in the biggest trouble?
Well, personally, I've worked at some of those platforms, so it was not me directly, but I have friends that were deplatformed for either some COVID comments, like COVID deniers. That was a big one.
Like they might have spread crazy conspiracy theories, like that the virus escaped from a lab in Wuhan.
Exactly, and they were kicked off the platform because that was a lie.
Because they didn't wait for the CIA to admit that.
Exactly.
If they had only waited 5 years for the CIA to admit that, they could have stayed on the platform. Okay.
Yep. But I mean, you've had some people on your podcast that are pretty controversial, right?
Yeah. I mean, in general, I've tried to share my views about how we got into this mess. I had a post go viral. It was so simple, but really just took off, during pandemic. And I was like, okay, we're not talking about the basic things. Like we're forcing people to stay inside, not go outside, not exercise. This is so backwards. We need to be boosting our immune systems. So, I mean, things like that. I mean, I've also really outlined some of the staggering statistics about the state of health and mental health and kind of my just general thoughts about kind of how we got there, and outlining if I had sinister motives, what would I want people to do? And it's the things we're all doing.
Like the screw tape letters.
Yeah.
And then you'll eat the Twinkies. And then
exactly. I would create like ultra processed foods and I would keep you inside and, create like little screens that you are completely addicted to, because then you become much easier to control, right? When you feel great, and you're not just slugging through the day and reaching for a beer, I mean, you have really clear thinking.
Yeah, here's an interesting parallel. Like, we might not be getting deplatformed, but some of the stuff that we say online, we'll have people that are mad in the comment section and might not, because what we're saying is, hey, if you change your life, you change your actions, you might feel, but people don't want to change, or they have pushback, which is kind of similar to Christianity in a way, where the gospel inherently is offensive, right? So you have all these, even our culture, trying to protect Islam or whatever, but like, Christians being persecuted, there's not even a word for that. It's just like, oh, the Christians, whatever.
It's called normal.
Yeah, it's like normal. So, and obviously it's expected as a believer, you will be persecuted, and you're blessed when that happens. But that was just a random parallel where I thought, like, yeah, you might not be deplatformed, but some of what you say is inherently offensive, of like, oh, I don't need to do that. Don't tell me how to live. And,
Right.
Yeah. So.
Well, I did lose what?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I did post a picture. So it was very interesting because the tide really shifted. So I had Bobby Kennedy on the podcast, like a year and a half ago or something. Everyone was so excited about it then.
Yeah.
But then I posted it the day after President Trump won.
That was back when he was good.
Yeah.
Now he's an evil person.
Something has changed, because I was very surprised, because I posted it within 10 minutes. I was like, Warren, I just lost 3,000 followers. Like, it was just hundreds of comments. And it also got a ton of likes too, but I was just very surprised, because I'm like, wait a second, when I posted this, a year and a half ago, everyone was excited, like, this is great, we need change. And apparently I had a lot of followers that were not excited about it the day after.
They're all for making America healthy again. Unless. So there's one weird trick, is when you link it to the Mango Mussolini, now all bets are off.
Yeah.
I learned that.
So, this is my next question. We've gone through the day. I sort of get the logic of it. Why did you decide to start doing this? Most people want to feel better. They want to live longer. I get all that. But this is completely another level. Why?
Yeah.
So when I started to get ready to open my clinic about 5 years ago, I had come across tests that I'd never been given by my doctor, right? So I was looking at gut tests and all these like different levels of toxins and what is my nutrient status. And I had never been offered that before. So when I started to get the results back, I was just eyes wide open. I'm like, okay, hold on. I thought I was in great health. I thought everything was perfect. And that's what my doctors had said. So when I was doing all this research and getting all these labs, I'm like, wait, there's so much room for optimization here. Why don't I want to have the best gut health I possibly could? Why don't I want to have the lowest toxic burden? So as I, learned about these tests, I just got kind of obsessed with it a little bit. I'm a little bit type A.
A little bit.
Yeah. So I just went all in on it. And then I started having calls with clinicians and different technologies like hyperbarics, and learned, I was like, wow, you can do so much. You can optimize your health and feel so much better. So
yeah, what if I told you like your baseline, how you felt every day for the last month, could be 20% better if you just did a couple changes?
Well, a couple changes is one thing.
Yeah.
Hyperbaric chambers is another.
Yeah, we are aware not everyone, is going to want to do all these things. And there's something I call like the, thrifty 3, which is, you don't need to spend money to get half the way there. Like, it's like 1, everyone can go to bed earlier.
Yeah.
2, everyone can walk 10,000 steps a day. And 3, everyone can eat a little bit healthier and kind of go organic, or don't eat out as much. Because if you go to the grocery store and buy organic, it's actually somewhat comparable to going to a restaurant or getting takeout.
Or fast food all the time.
Exactly.
Fast food is pretty expensive, actually.
It actually is not as cheap as you might think.
Yeah.
If you start looking at the books, it's like, okay, get organic. Carrots are pretty cheap. Like, organic apples more expensive, but still in line. You compare it with McDonald's or all these other crazy things. It's like, okay, guys, you don't need to be ordering fast food every meal.
Yeah, but so what about on this type A point? Because you say this is good for you. The whole idea is this is really promoting your health and your overall good life.
Yeah.
However, it seems a little bit obsessive. And 2, even beyond that, there is this sense from a classical understanding of morality that being overly concerned with what one eats is actually a kind of gluttony. We think of gluttony as you just stuff your face with pancakes or
Yeah.
something. But there's another understanding of gluttony, which is that it's pickiness, or it's concern with the delicacy or even the daintiness of the food that you're eating. Are you afraid that you are giving in to a kind of a vice, maybe the vice of gluttony, or even a kind of
Pride, maybe.
or pride, even a kind of even just a psychological obsession that might not be good for your health?
So I think that's a great question. And I think one of the benefits of doing this together is that we can support each other and help us stay on track. So I'm a little more, okay, if we have a lot of kids and I can only do cold plunge 4 times a week instead of every day, that's still better than, nothing.
Yeah.
But in terms of like being like so meticulous or maybe taking, too much pride in it, we're both Christians. So our vision and our purpose is, okay, life is a gift. We want to take care of the vessels that, we've been given. But that is something that is top of mind. It's like, okay, we need to make sure that this doesn't become an idol in our life, or something that's overly, obsessive. Because at the end of the day, if we're in the ground in 200 years, we're done, and then it's, we're with our Father. So it's like, okay, how can we view this as a blessing, but still, appreciate life in the midst of doing all these health modalities that are going to help us live longer? It's like, well, what's the point of living longer if you're not living? We would say we are living as we're doing these things. It's actually fun. I mean, like we have a few saunas at our house, and we'll have people over. We can use saunas.
Saunas are
cold
great.
therapy.
Yeah.
It's great. It's like, community. So that's kind of how I would answer that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it can be a fine line. I think if you're thinking about it and it's incredibly stressful, I think that's obviously detrimental to your health. But the way I perceive it is I get to do all this amazing stuff. So for me, because it makes me feel so good, I mean, it could maybe be a little bit on the more intense side, but I don't feel stressed about it because it's so natural at this point and we have it so built in. That I just am like feeling so blessed to be able to do it. Yeah,
I wonder that you bring up Christianity, because most people you talk to about radical life extension or just an extreme health focus, I find are not Christian. Because I think,
which is ironic, I think.
How so?
Well, if you're like a nihilist, and it's like, what's the purpose of this? Or you're an atheist, it's like, well, why? Like, what's the point of anything then? So for me, that's just hard to comprehend.
I wonder if for them it's that people naturally fear death. This is part of the human tragedy, at least as they perceive it. And so they think, look, I want to have eternal life, or the nearest to it I possibly can, and there's no such thing as heaven or the soul. So I guess I'm just going to have to eke out a few more years or even decades, which is why it's surprising to me that you both as Christians are so focused on radical life extension. Because I think, look, I'm seeking eternal life. I hope I get it. I hope I finish the race. Trust in my Savior that I will be able to, but it ain't going to be flesh and bones, or maybe it will be eventually, but only after the resurrection of the dead. That, even as you say, look, maybe in 200 years we're out of here. And I think, well, by the scale of eternity, the difference between 75 and 200, it's not really all that long, is it?
It's not. But if you look at mankind and like our history with where we're at right now, we're blessed to be millennials at this point where we were alive before the iPhone, and now we're just, escape velocity. So I'm like, oh my gosh, of all the times to be alive in the last 5,000 years, now is, in my opinion, the most exciting, because we have the Elon Musks of the world and all this stuff is happening. So even though, an extra 75 years isn't crazy in the grand scheme of things, I mean, it's still
double
like
your
watching
life.
an amazing movie. It's like, I kind of want to stick around for the movie.
Now, do you want to be 150 years old? Because this, I find, I talk to my grandparents. I say, especially after maybe a spouse dies, but even when it's just like your friends die or whatever, and they'll say, "Hey, grandma or grandpa, how you doing?" And I say, "I'm fine." I called my grandmother on her birthday. I said, "Happy birthday, Grandma." She goes, "Yeah, I'm still here for some reason." I don't, and not to say she wants to die. She keeps up her health and she's great, but she recognizes there is a kind of story to life. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and so in that way, she doesn't fear death. She's not worried. She says, I'll stick around as long as I can for my family, but she kind of holds on to it lightly. And I wonder, is there, in trying to live to 150, are people in radical life extension clinging on to it tightly?
So something in the longevity industry that we discuss is the longevity escape velocity. And that's at a point which we believe is going to be really soon with the advent of AI and just the birth of super intelligence, that we can actually restore or age backwards faster than we are actually aging, forwards. And we're of a belief too, if God is blessing us with these medical interventions, then it's probably okay to use them. So,
is that always true? I mean, he blesses us with euthanasia chambers.
Okay.
Is that I don't know if he blesses us with that, or like there are dubious technologies, pornography or whatever,
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. But if you look at life as what is the purpose, or what is the biblical understanding of life, it's to like the Nicene Creed, it's to like enjoy God and enjoy Him forever,
Yep.
like be a blessing to people, be a light to them. I do think there's a common misconception, at least when people look at us, like, oh, they're scared of death. Like, we're not scared of death. And in all irony, if God forbid there's a car accident and we're done before 150, it's like, we tried.
Yeah.
But I do feel like there are a lot of people in this space who do seem to create like an idolization of, their pursuit of this. And, that's something where as Christians, we are called to stand, and remind ourselves daily, okay, like, the purpose of this isn't for us. It's to be a blessing. It's to be, like a light to the world, which is bizarre when you think about it through the lens of, longevity. It's like, okay.
But that's a great way to think about it, though, in that I agree with you. My old Baltimore Catechism view of the purpose of life is to serve God in this world, to know Him, and to enjoy Him forever in eternity. And so you think, okay, well, I don't know, maybe there's some way to pursue that goal by extending my physical life or something.
Yeah, by doing it longer.
By doing it longer, or being a light to others, being helpful to others. Okay, I kind of get it, but then that means that my focus on my body really shouldn't be about my body. It should be about the purpose of extending my body.
Yeah.
And there are some people I've talked to in the radical life extension culture who don't just think they're going to live to 150. They think they're going to cure death, that they will never physically die.
Yeah.
Do you have any hope for that, or that's pie in the sky?
Well, I think that's where the longevity escape velocity comes in. A lot of my friends are of that mindset that, we won't die. And if we can, with that AI, reverse, the aging process faster than we're accumulating it, then I think it's possible for sure. I think we're living in a time unlike any other, with AI. But I think it's important too to focus on, we aren't interested in just living a long time. We want to live healthy and be able to, do the work that we're doing and spread different messages. So also extending health span, not just lifespan.
Right. Yeah, of course. Because no one wants to be 150 bound to, some chair, just begging for death, but no one can even understand you. That sounds terrible. So then, okay, you want to be 150, but you want to be a healthy 150. What happens if you're an unhealthy 150? Then what do you do?
Yeah, in terms of like let's say everyone has the final 10 years of life, and if we're if we're done at 150, the 140 to 150, it's like hopefully there will be enough advancements where we're not falling over, or like we have good hips, or like we right now we're just focused on getting there. I personally haven't thought about the last couple of years is going to be brutal or not brutal.
It's usually kind of brutal.
It's usually very sad. I mean, a lot of people that are in care homes right now are in their 80s, 90s, and we've all had grandparents that have gone through that, and it's sad. But I mean, 80 to 90% of longevity is not genetics; it's like lifestyle. So if we are moving our bodies and doing all these things, I'm hopeful that we'll have a good health span, not just lifespan.
Now, for that last period of time, because you're focused on control, the aspects, the lifestyle that you can really control for longevity. If you're not having a good go around, and you say, okay, I don't want to make it to 160, do you support other attendant bioethical developments such as euthanasia or whatever, or no? Do you just kind of turn off the electric chair or turn on the electric chair? I don't know. Do you kind of cut out the healthy lifestyle and let nature run its course?
What do you think? That's a good question.
Yeah, I think that the latter are just slowing down the healthy habits and letting nature. Personally, I'm not a fan of, organized death or, planned
Suicide.
death. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that personally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're in a ton of pain, I mean, I'm not sure where I land ethically there, but, at the end of the day, eternity is forever and we're here when we're here. And, hopefully there's not a lot of suffering.
Sure. Now, do you find the other people who are in this space, like, are there other Christians? Because on the one hand, the lifestyle you're describing is totally wild and foreign to me, and especially me. I think I last worked out during the Obama administration, and so there's that. But then on the other hand, when you're speaking of kind of basic Christian understandings of the world, it sounds totally normal and traditional and like just about any old-fashioned American. So do you find, I don't know, the people that I've talked to, other than you two, in the life extension culture are all like weirdo Silicon Valley robots who want to like plug their brains into the Matrix or something.
Yeah, I can't think of anyone else that is, Christian in the industry. No one comes to mind off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why are Christians not attracted to this? Or why are the people who are attracted to this not Christian?
It's a really good question.
I think the people that are attracted to this tend to be the people that might want to have an element of, playing God in their life, of like, I can't control death. Death might scare me. I don't want to die.
Yeah.
And I that's a great point. I haven't had a lot of examples of other fellow Christians that are taking this radical approach to, we're given a vessel, let's be a good steward of it, and let's enjoy life for maybe longer, so then we can do more good, or we can enjoy life longer. That is a really astute observation. I actually don't really know, but I do think it is, way more common for Christians to fall under the, doctrine of, we only live once, like this is from God, let's enjoy it. And then, just, you die and it's done, as opposed to a healthier, version of, hey, let's take care of our bodies.
Yeah.
I remember going to a Bible study with my grandparents like 10, 20, years ago. And every prayer request from all their old friends was, so-and-so has cancer, so-and-so has this problem. And it was asking God to heal them. But then right after the Bible study, they went in the kitchen and they just started eating brownies and cookies. And I'm like, guys, this is so wrong.
It's like smoking.
Yeah, exactly. They're smoking. I'm like, okay, well, but I mean, I do think there needs to be balance in, everything. And I don't want, you to think, for example, that our day to day is like, oh, I have to go 3:30, I have to do, PMF and then hyperbaric. It's not like, it doesn't feel like rigid, even though outside looking in, I'm sure it probably is.
Yeah.
But for us, we just like enjoy it, and we're blessed to be able to get to do it. And we feel so much better after we do it that I'm like, why aren't more people doing this? Like when we have friends come over, our home is like a longevity clinic. So it's like, come over, here's the PMF chair, we'll sit them down, we'll turn it on. Do you feel it now? And it's fun.
But now, so I see that as a discipline. If you treat it as a discipline for a positive good, okay, great. And sure, maybe it feels good, just like feels good for me to have a cigar. It's probably healthier for you and makes you feel good to go into the oxygen chamber. But do you miss normal life? Meaning, do you miss going out to that restaurant that doesn't have all the super clean oils? Or do you miss going to the bar? I don't know. Do you miss those things?
Yeah, there might be moments, but at the end of the day, if living to 150 means not going to dinners after 7 p.m., and I have to do it at 5, like for me, that's a small sacrifice, and people they might think it's weird, but, I'll just say, hey, we're in bed by 8:30. Can you do lunch? Like, it's not the end of the world. I mean, let's just do lunch. But yeah, I mean, there's an element of, I'm not going to see a movie that starts at 10 p.m. at a movie theater probably for the rest of my life. Yeah. So, I don't really grieve that, but, that's not really a thing anymore.
Plus, they don't make good movies anymore anyway.
Well, that's a whole other thing. There's, not.
But even on your point, well, you want to be in bed, earlier in the evening. So what does that mean for holidays? What does that mean for your friend's birthday party?
Yeah.
You just miss it?
We do. Well, to speak on the point of do I miss it, Warren and I have a little bit of a different thought pattern on that. I think that we have really conditioned ourselves as a society to say that going out drinking is fun, or going out to a restaurant and ordering a variety of different foods. Like that's what we've been told is fun, right? And enjoyable and satisfying. I am so happy, waking up in the morning early, bursting with energy. So I think I've just really changed the way that I think. Like if I were just to go to a standard restaurant or order it and like think about ordering pizza, I would see that as like almost a poison. And for me, I don't want to put that into my body. So it makes me really happy and excited not to.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we just maybe could slightly tweak how we define fun as a society. And if we thought of healthier habits as being enjoyable, then probably more people would do them.
Well, there is a shift too that happens, even if you're not a real health-focused person, such as myself. I think in my 20s, I could really hit the bars. I could do a good job of it. Stay out real late. Have a few dozen Coca-Colas or something. But now, truly, like on the rare occasion that I am dragged out to a bar, I am thinking, even if I'm with a great company and I catching up with old friends or whatever, I am thinking that whole time about how much more I would enjoy sleeping. I think, now maybe it's because I have 3 little kids. That's pretty exhausting, a lot of travel. But so there is a little shift that happens called the 30s, that hits you too. But I see your point. Okay, our culture prioritizes going out and, having a boozy brunch or whatever, sure. But our culture does still recognize that. So that does mean you got to miss the Christmas Eve dinner or whatever, doesn't it?
Or leave early, just you leave early. Maybe it starts earlier. I mean, we don't want to put people out, but, they're, fairly understanding and they're going to respect it. It's like, hey, we want to honor our sleep, and the next day, like your day tomorrow starts tonight, like when you fall asleep. I mean, one thing I'd never experienced until I met Kayla is waking up at 4 a.m. having already gotten 8 hours of sleep. Like, have you ever done that in your life?
I've woken up at 4 plenty of times.
Yeah.
But I 8 hours, I can't remember the last time I got 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah, I mean, it's, but I mean, even 6 or 7, imagine waking up at 4 a.m. having got 7 hours of sleep. You're going to crush your day. I mean, you hit 9 a.m., you've already done all these things, you're productive. Like, for me, that's way more fun than going to a bar and having a couple beers. And, I also did that in my 20s a little bit. And then I'm like, okay, I don't feel good the next day. I know it's not good for me. And now it's a, thing of the past, right? We might have organic wine once a year, but we're not, really like drinking at all.
So then what, for people who are watching, they say, all right, I don't have 6 figures yet not yet, maybe someday to spend on my health. But what are the big changes? You say, the frugal 3, go to thrifty 3, go to bed early. What would you do? You give them, okay, here's my 30-second pitch on how you radically improve your life.
Yeah, I mean, having data is always great. So if you want to do just at least a couple of lab panels every year, but the things that are going to move the needle the most are truly, we might be doing like these NADIVs and stem cells and hyperbaric and all this stuff.
To do that.
What's an NADIV?
Yeah, so it's a very popular longevity molecule. It's a coenzyme. Okay. So we do this through like an IV drip, like you guys have back there. Very, very good.
It's intense. It's like an hour or 2 hours of sitting there getting this IV, and your body feels like you can feel it in an intense.
Now that you had me a little bit earlier when you said we like the saunas, we like the walks in the hills. Like that all sounds really nice. IV, zapping you with electricity or whatever. I don't know. That seems not pleasant.
It's a little bit uncomfortable at times, but it's all for the greater good, I feel, for the longevity.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Jordan Peterson's whole thing, sacrificing the present for the future. It's the same thing with health. Like working out might be hard in the moment, and you might not be doing it right now, but the main question is, should you? Like, would you feel better if you did do it?
Future me certainly will wish that present me worked out a little bit, unless President Trump is right, and we are born with a store of energy like a battery, and you deplete it and you're done.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I agree with him on a lot of things, but that is just not true.
Not that one. All right. Well, it remains to be seen, I guess.
Yeah. But are you being kind to yourself if you know your future self is not going to be happy with your present self?
Right.
I would argue you could be kinder to yourself.
People do all kinds of things to improve their health and to protect their bodies.
Yet many don't take the simple step to protect themselves from cyber hackers who compromise their internet security. Like predators targeting the weakest prey, hackers go after unprotected users. And without ExpressVPN, that's you. Whenever you're on public Wi-Fi, your data are exposed. Hackers can steal your passwords and credit card details with basic equipment. Even a tech-savvy teenager could do it. In fact, hackers can make up to $1,000 selling your information on the dark web. Well, today's guests are focused on optimizing biology. ExpressVPN optimizes security, creating an encrypted tunnel so secure that it would take hackers millions of years to crack. With one click, all of your devices are protected. When I'm interviewing experts about biohacking, I rely on ExpressVPN as my essential digital protection. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/Michael, letter Y, letter T. This is a long advertisement. That's expressvpn.com/Michael, letter Y, letter T, to find out how you can get up to 4 months for free. expressvpn.com/Michael, letter Y, letter T.
Tell me about the stem cells. Where do you get the stem cells from?
Yeah, so we're actually about to bank our own stem cells. So it'll be derived from our own fat. They just do a tiny bit of liposuction, get some fat, and then you can actually replicate those cells. So we can use them if we get sick. We'll probably be doing more of just a wellness protocol. So we'll get them back for an IV drip on a quarterly basis. And, of course, research is happening with stem cells all the time, but it's something that we currently feel comfortable with doing. You can also use them for, let's say we get a joint injury at some point, you can use them injected into the joint. The idea is to help heal rapidly.
So most of the ethical debates over stem cells come because a lot of stem cells used in medical research come from lines derived from aborted babies.
Yeah.
But you're saying you don't need to use those stem cells.
Yeah.
You can just use your own fat.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
When we have babies, we
Great.
can actually bank the stem cells from the umbilical cords, which will be nice.
Huh.
So then we can use them actually for the children in the future, or even us, or for if something were to happen. So we're pretty excited about the possibilities. There's, stem cells, and there's exosomes, which is the extracellular material, not the actual, of course, genetic material of the stem cell. So we've done like a stem cell facial, but it's with exosomes. So that's also available here in the United States.
Okay, now you mentioned the kids. When you have kids, this is a live debate with me and my wife and in our broader trad community. Are you going to vaccinate the kids?
I'm currently asking all my podcast guests. So all my podcast guests are medical doctors. I'm not a medical doctor, so I love to just go to the experts. And I'm asking, would you get any of them? And if you would, which ones? Overwhelmingly, it's been not all of them. And there's been a bit of a debate between which ones they might choose.
Why not get all of them? Because they cause autism. That's why. That's the real. No one wants to say it, but that is the argument to not get to get some of the vaccines, but not all of them, is because Bobby Kennedy 20 years ago said that they cause autism, and then he kind of had to walk it back, but he didn't totally walk it back, and no one's allowed to bring it up, but that's what people think.
Yeah, you have to do a lot of mental, logical gymnastics to not reach that conclusion. I don't think that's to say every one of them is bad, because I know that vaccines have saved, a lot of people in human history, but the amount they're getting today as a newborn compared to 20 years ago is, what's the number, like 50 or 70? Or it's a crazy amount.
Yeah.
So there might be 4 or 5 that might make sense, but so this is one of the huge benefits of having her as my wife, is because she's our chief health officer. She's doing all the research. I now know she's going to go out there, talk to all the experts, and we're going to figure out, okay, what are the 2 vaccines that we should give our kids? But we're in California right now. There are regulations about this. So, if those stay in place, I don't know how much longer we're going to be there for this reason.
Right. The best thing you can do for your kids' health is move them out of California immediately. Yeah. But I don't know anything about vaccines and autism. I don't know. Maybe there's a link. Maybe there is. I don't know. What do I know? But I do know that right when my first kid was born, the doctor in the hospital said, okay, do you want your kid to have the hepatitis vaccine right now, immediately, the second he's born?
Yeah. I
said, hepatitis?
Yeah.
Are you going to take my kid to a brothel? Is my kid going to be sharing needles on Skid Row? I said, no, that's just what we do.
Yeah.
I said, why? And it took a little prodding, and we found out basically because they said, well, because your husband might be cheating on you or something. I said, you calling, hold on, wait, what am I paying this medical bill for? You're going to get out of here. Don't stick my kid with that needle. And so some of them, I think, seem totally crazy, and now I don't trust institutions, so I say, okay, all right. So vaccines may be good, but were you both vaccinated?
Yes, I think I asked my mom the other day. Yeah, we got the full vaccination as children, right?
And you turned out good.
Yeah.
I do have allergies though, and I'm like, if I wasn't, maybe I wouldn't have allergies.
Yeah.
Warren always says that.
Yeah.
But also I think it was, and I'm not an expert on this topic, but I believe it was half the amount of vaccines that children are receiving now.
Yeah.
So there's also that to be considered.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just a huge proponent of people like thinking for themselves. And anytime a doctor or a professional says, so-and-so, yeah, like you want to respect them and take what they're saying, but think about it. Like you just had a baby 2 minutes ago. It was in your wife's womb, and now they're trying to stick a needle in her baby. Like maybe that's not a good idea. Yeah, for hepatitis. I'm like, what are you talking about? So, your instinct there to seek truth in everything you're doing was, that's great. Like more people should have that, initiative to think for themselves, as opposed to wanting the government to solve all their problems, which, is a whole other thing.
Until 15 years later, they tell you actually the food pyramid's upside down.
Yeah, exactly. So the whole MAHA movement is just, a statement against what the government's been done. And like social media, for all the bad of social media, I'm hopeful that the ability for social media to help permeate truth throughout culture is something to be positive about,
No, okay. So then, not to be a little selfish here.
Yeah.
Just now, what should I do? Here's my schedule.
Yeah.
I wake up.
What time?
I wake up a little before 7, a quarter of 7. I've got a sleep mask on.
Nice.
Block out the light, so I don't get the sunlight though right away. My alarm goes off. I take the mask off. I stumble into the shower. Take a shower, brush my teeth, go make a couple shots of espresso. Get the kids. Drag the kids down. I have a nice, beautiful breakfast made by my wife. Eggs, meat, cheese. And she buys the fancy college-educated eggs. So even that's probably relatively healthy. And then I go to work, and I sit at my desk all day, and I don't walk anywhere. And maybe I walk to go get more coffee. And then maybe I'll have a cigar, depending on the weather. Nice.
Every day?
Just about. Maybe less, a little less now, because the winters really kill me, and I'm nice to my wife, and I won't smoke in the house.
Nice.
So let's say every other day. I don't know. I have a cigar. And then I come home. I'm exhausted. I, juggle the kids, throw them in the bath, throw them into bed, have some nice, delicious, healthy food. I eat my unhealthy food during the day at the office. Then I work until like 11 or midnight. And then I'm exhausted. I've got computer screens in my face. I'm on the brink of mania. Then I flop into bed around midnight. And then my alarm goes off. And I probably ate something at like 11 p.m., like a big fatty Italian meat or something. And then maybe I'll have had a drink. Maybe not. I don't know. And then I wake up 6 hours later, do it all over again. How long do I have, Doc?
There's a couple of areas of improvement there. Want to just start at the top?
Yeah.
And okay, so one thing that you could do that's a simple swap. So I'll try to keep it like, just a few small changes. So you could do like a cold shower in the morning instead of just only hot or ending on cold. So that's going to increase your dopamine right away. It will release endorphins to make you feel good. It also could help with inflammation, over time. Cold therapy can. Definitely get the morning sun just to set your circadian rhythm, because then you'll actually probably get tired much earlier than you're currently getting tired later in the day. Would love to see, some sort of exercise. Doesn't have to be anything wild, just 20, 30 minutes. Maybe one day you're working on cardiovascular system. Second day, you're doing some strength training. Maybe you glance at your bone density and a couple biomarkers from time to time, a couple times a year.
Hold on, you said that I will get tired earlier in the day, and that's good. But I need to stay up to do work. Or is the idea that I'll have so much more energy, I'll get all my work done, and then I won't stay up until midnight slaving away?
That would be the ideal situation. That's, Warren has really brought into my life, I've condensed my working hours. And so it's really kind of forced me to be incredibly productive during those times. Maybe trying to shorten that, because ideally you want to be in bed by 10 at the latest, because if not, you can get the second cortisol spike, and then, you have a second wave. So you really want to be in bed early. I would say if you kind of build your day around sleep, I know that might sound wild, but if you really get that sleep, it's going to be so restorative, great for longevity, great for your mood, energy, and focus the next day. Like getting high quality sleep, I would say, is the one thing everybody can do starting tonight.
I never get high quality sleep.
Well,
you can tell by my under eye bags. I never get it.
Yeah, well, if you get an Oura ring or some sort of track, wearable, it can really help with accountability, and you can see how high quality, like how much REM do you get, how much deep sleep, what's your heart rate during the day. It'll encourage you to move, so getting more of those steps. And a lot of times when people are looking at something, tracking it, they're a little bit more incentivized to do better. So we track that daily, but prioritizing sleep, obviously it sounds like your first meal a day and your last meal of the day are really pretty healthy.
The ones my wife
your wife. life. Yeah.
That's right.
Maybe have her pack a lunch or something.
Probably a good idea.
That could be helpful. And trying to get moving as much as possible during the day, during the workout.
Okay, then I had this. Does that mean I need to get like that 1980s desk treadmill kind of thing? Because I'm at my desk a lot of the day. I'm reading, I'm writing.
Yeah, I mean, I think walking or biking treadmill, or even every 90 minutes taking a stroll like around the building, getting a little bit of sun, getting movement, but just trying to hit like 8,000 to 10,000 steps per day is going to be helpful in and of itself.
Yeah, there's three things that stuck out to me. One, I would really try going on a walk outside after lunch. So if you're eating your unhealthy, food during lunch, I would just, go out for half an hour, maybe do a call as you're like walking around.
Yeah.
Two, I would stop caffeine. I think the half-life is like 4 hours. So I would stop at like maybe 1 or 2 p.m. I mean, are like you taking espresso at like 6 p.m. or what are you?
Yeah, like 4,
Okay.
5 maybe.
Yeah, maybe like slowly cut that back.
Yeah, okay.
You're not gonna be able to do it overnight. So just, each month take it down like an hour. Or she would do all of it tomorrow and just change. But I don't have that, that power to do that. And then also, like if you get a sauna and do that 4 times a week, that decreases all-cause mortality by 41%. That
Really?
is insane. Yeah.
I'm looking for an excuse to get a sauna.
Wow.
I like a good schwitz.
Yeah.
I'm not a big
Love that.
exercise guy, but I love a good schwitz.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was. You just mentioned. You say, well, she would do it all one day, because it seems like on this particular issue, you've kind of led the way. This is your area of expertise.
Yeah, I'm the chief health officer of our house.
Yeah.
So the inciting incident for you to get into all this is you. What was it for you? You say, okay, 15 years ago I started organic, and but why? Is it? You say you're a little type A or that, but take me back to the moment when you said, I'm going to live to be 150 and I'm going to do it this way.
Food.
Yeah, well, it was really when I got all this data, because I was looking and every doctor.
But why'd you get the data?
So I started this clinic, and when you're going to open a new business, you have to think, what services and technologies are we going to offer? So I started ordering it all to try.
I'm not trying to sound like a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
Why'd you start the clinic?
Well, I was already interested in it. Yeah. So, it was a slow build. I started learning about nutrition, over a decade ago. And then I've always been an entrepreneur. So I've, started my first company at 17 or 18. And I wanted to be able to, perform better, work longer hours. I didn't really come from much growing up. And I knew that I wanted to build a life for myself that basically like I have now. But I knew it was going to take a lot of, mental stamina and focus and being able to put in hours at work. So that was kind of the initial interest.
What was the first company at 17?
Yeah, it was a marketing company back then.
Okay.
And I had no idea
And
what I
you were
was
in marketing
doing.
also.
Yeah, I was a talent manager. I actually worked at, I was at WME for 3 years. So I sat next to Ari Emanuel, and he was doing the walking treadmill and like 50 pills a day. And I'm like, but yeah, my background's more entertainment. Hers is more health. And then now we're like combining everything. And I'm actually running a sauna company now. So Heavenly Heat saunas. They're made with like no glue, because you don't want to get hot and, breathe all the VOCs from the adhesive. So, that's been...
I'm just amazed, because you strike me as a very nice, dignified, serious, kind person. So I can't possibly believe you worked at one of these talent agencies where they're all sharks and animals.
Yeah, it was intense. Yeah, it was definitely, I was like a Christian kid from, Illinois, and now I'm thrown into that. And it was, it was a life experience. And then I kind of pivoted to like digital. I worked at Yahoo. Then I, managed YouTubers and TikTokers, and that was definitely, like the late night dinners and all that stuff, which I knew was not good for me, and I didn't want to do it. Yeah. But I think for both of us, our interest started when we were teenagers. Separately, obviously, we would eat food and we didn't feel good. So all of this started with like basic nutrition and the power of just cutting out processed crap and then feeling amazing. So, I think that was the first domino for you.
Okay. And then to have this thought, all right, I need to perform better in my entrepreneurship, so to perform better, I need that good fuel in me. Okay. All right. That kind of tracks. And then then that becomes the business.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you know, going back to PMF and grounding, have you ever been in the ocean for a couple hours, you get out and you just feel amazing for the next 8 hours?
Yeah.
So that goes back to the charge of your body, so you're grounding when you're in the ocean, or when, your bare feet are on dirt for like an hour, you're like, running around in the field and you feel good. So that great feeling is something you can have every day if you do PMF. You sit in this chair, turn it on, and it kind of like, it puts more, the charge of your body, it like makes it more positive. And that's what we want.
Okay, now this part because you've got me convinced on a few of these things.
Yeah.
But this part sounds like real hippy dippy stuff. Like I put my feet on the dirt and I get the crystal charges with my chakras or whatever. How rigorously scientific is this?
More than you think, yeah. I think in 10, 20 years, that's going to be pretty mainstream. I mean, it's already, common knowledge right now where in order to decrease jet lag, if you go to a new place, walk outside, bare feet and all, and that will help you adapt, your circadian rhythm to the time zone you're in. So there is, this whole topic is somewhat like, oh, granola, foo-foo, whatever. But for us, like, it's not a chore. Like, we get to do this and we're so blessed. I mean, 200 years ago, you're freaking going to die of smallpox or whatever when you're 25 or 10. Yeah. And now at least we have all this knowledge and we're like, and now with AI, we're freaking ChatGPTing everything. Like, what about this? What about that?
Well, and you say it's crunchy and frou-frou and it is all those things, but there's been a huge shift in the last 5 years, which is that when I was growing up, all the people that whined about Monsanto and GMOs and grounded their feet on the, on the leprechaun's little, leaves and things, they were all on the political left. And now they are all of them, on the political right. You are more likely to find a fascist in the, health community than you are to find a communist these days, in my experience.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I don't know why there's not more Christians that are doing this, or they tend to be people that are more, because if you look at a lot of the people pioneering this, they do tend to be people not like you or me.
Which is interesting because, maybe not to this level, but we are called to be good stewards of our body. Certainly maybe not with the chambers and things of that nature, but yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, I don't like it, and this might be offensive to some people, but when I go to a church and the pastor is super overweight, I'm like, okay, how are you going to lead your family and this family if you can't lead your own, self-will of your body?
Yeah.
Like, come on, like, it's not like, let's be a little more disciplined. Like, let's, think about, okay, how does God, like, what's God's best for you? Like, God's best for you is not being obese. And yeah, there might be elements that might be out of your control, but a lot of this is in our control, but people might not have the information. So if you now know, okay, I shouldn't be drinking a big gulp 3 times a day, but you still do it, some of that is you can't change, but part of that is you can, and you're choosing not to.
Oh, I would have the same reaction, though I wonder if it's for different reasons. Meaning, the thing that would raise my eyebrow about that, about a morbidly obese pastor of a church, is because I would say, oh, well, he has not restrained his appetites to his rational will. So he's just not in control of himself, and you need to practice the disciplines and the virtues, and that's part of a Christian life. And maybe he's not doing that barring some unforeseen circumstance, maybe that's evidence of that. But it sounds like your objection to it is that he's not being a good steward of his body. And but I guess this gets back to what we were talking about at the top.
Yeah.
Is it possible that my objection that, he could be super fit, like buff youth pastor with a microphone, Chad kind of guy, but he actually could be engaging in a vice because he's overly concerned with his body? What is just how are Christians to approach this?
I think the power of the Holy Spirit needs to be present in your life because, the Holy Spirit is our counselor and our guide. So that's why one of the first things we do in the morning is we get in the Word and we pray and we journal and we do that together. But that is to help us stay centered and to realize, okay, pride is just as much of a sin as, gluttony, right? Yeah. So it's like, yes, that pastor, I think, we both have kind of the same thing, like that might be wrong because of this, but you're totally right. There are many people in LA where we are right now that idolize how they look or idolize, like them, so that's definitely something that is top of mind for us. Like, hey, how can we make sure that this isn't becoming an idol,
a problem? A
problem.
And so for the people who come to you for the business side of it, please fix my, like I just did, how many hoagies should I have during the week? Who are these people? Is it the crunchy hippies on the left? Is it the right wing, Maha type people now? Are they all rich because they can afford this kind of, all the fancy Erewhon groceries? Who are they?
Yeah. So at my clinic in particular, a lot of people are actually looking for a solution to their their problem. So I would say about 50% of our patients are struggling with some sort of chronic disease, which we now know that 60% of adult Americans have at least one chronic disease. This is why, Bobby Kennedy is where he is now, because we need to figure out what's going on in our country and in our environment that is leading to these absolutely insane outcomes in terms of health. 40% of Americans have 2 or more chronic diseases. Children are developing diabetes at unprecedented rates. The rates of cancer, young cancers, are just skyrocketing. So there's really something going on. So I would say about 50% of our patients are looking to us for a lot of the tests and then the modalities to actually help them uncover why they feel ill. They've already been to probably 5 to 10 different standard Western doctors. We do something called functional medicine there. So it's trying to find the root cause of the issue instead of just, necessarily prescription. We do some prescriptions, but we always try to find the root cause. And then the other 50%, a lot of them are executives or people that want to optimize their longevity. So it's kind of a mix.
Yeah, the people who follow you, though, I think are people that just are seeking truth. I mean, probably like 90% of your audience is, females, and she's a female health community where they all talk about it every day and ask questions and fertility stuff. And I'm like, okay, there's not really like an ICP or like a prototype. It's just, women or people that are seeking a solution in their life. Like, I don't feel good, or I forget what that's called, but a lot of women have that 3-letter thing, and I'm like, wow, everyone has that.
PCOS?
Yeah, that thing. Yeah.
What is it?
PCOS.
What is
polycystic ovarian syndrome? Women experience about 80% of autoimmune conditions. So
more than men.
Yeah, I think that women in particular, women and men, I think everybody is tired of feeling awful.
And that's because of all the beauty products, right?
It's a variety of different reasons, but some of the environmental toxins are contributors to some of the health.
Well, aren't our bodies like a third plastic at this point with all the microplastics in the environment?
Yeah, microplastics, nanoplastics. We do some lab testing to look at levels of microplastics and nanoplastics, but I mean, it's one of those things that we thought we were doing it for convenience and to make everything faster, but it's really leading to poor outcomes. We now know that microplastics are in every single human organ, also in the placenta. They're accumulating at about double the speed in the brain. So these are things we really have to figure out.
Do we know what that leads to? Because when I talk to, and I totally agree, it's women that are leading on this, and it's the women that are dragging the men in. And I'm even like half a believer. I kind of buy it.
Yeah. I feel like you're like bought in.
I'm like pretty into it.
We almost have you.
Yeah. They haven't convinced me on the cigars yet, but I'm like bought in on a lot. And but it is women. They're all, and for some women I saw it change overnight. These are women who were never really into this stuff, and then one day all the plastic out of the house. But nuts and bolts. Like, okay, let's say my brain is now, 10% plastic. Maybe it is. What is that directly tied to? Do we know, or is it just like it's probably not good?
I mean, I think it's still definitely needing some more research. It's a very popular topic now, but I mean, having these endocrine disruptors for women can lead to a lot of health issues, such as autoimmune, such as fertility issues. We see the fertility rates declining. We know that microplastics in the body can lead to chronic low-grade inflammation, which is a root cause of many different diseases. So, I mean, it's all there. We know that the state of our health is in absolute shambles. And while you don't need to take it to the level we are, I think that we all really need to start with somewhere.
But also there's going to be people who are like, well, we don't know, definitively what that causes. What we would say is, I don't need to see a clinical trial to know that my brain should not be 5% plastic.
You're right.
Like that's common sense.
You're right.
But no, fertility is one of the first ways that it will come up. And we're seeing that right now in our society, where a lot of people, like sperm count is way lower, and it's, it's a mess.
This is really jarring to me, because I'm totally with Elon. We have an underpopulation problem. Overpopulation is a complete nonsense leftist ideology from the 70s based on nothing. We're going to have societal collapse, frankly, if we don't fix this. So sperm rates have dropped precipitously. Women are suffering infertility at higher rates. But then that gets me asking, okay, well, how much of this is not just due to the chemicals in the water turning the frogs gay? How much of this is due to women now have careers outside the home and they postpone having children? I have friends who were told their whole lives, you've got to get a job, don't get married early, get married in your mid-30s or late 30s. And by the time they get around to having kids, they're in their mid to late 30s, and it's just naturally much harder to have kids at that point. How much of it is just the behavior of modern life as opposed to the chemicals and the drugs and the foods?
Well, I have a podcast, and so I've interviewed a lot of fertility experts on this very topic. And what I have been told is that even when you account for the age difference, the rate of infertility is still significantly higher. So yes, you're definitely right that people are waiting to have children, which just, for a woman, age is one of the biggest factor for fertility. So of course it's going to be less time, but even subtract that. And from what I've been told, it's still a big issue, even for young women.
Yeah, I'd say the problem is, 70%, all the bad stuff going on, and then maybe 30% societal. We're like an individualistic nation where we've, told everyone it's all about you, and you need to do this, you need to do that. We've decreased the importance of the family, which is a massive problem, but it's hard to put a number on it.
Yeah.
But big pharma is that's why we're so happy about RFK, because I feel like there could, for the first time in a long time, be substantial change. I'm a little worried about his health, about his, safety for how much he's doing.
His longevity.
Yeah, his longevity. Yeah, exactly. But
right.
This is a society we need to change.
Because there was a massive popular appeal of people saying, look, we want Bobby Kennedy, we want a Kennedy, for goodness sakes, to ride in with a Republican administration to transform healthcare. And that was real. And it was largely led by women who are concerned about things like fertility rates dropping. And we joke about Alex Jones and the chemicals turning the frogs gay, but
he was right about a lot of stuff.
He was right. He was actually right about that one in particular. Yeah. And 30% of young people identifying as LGBTQ, 30%. You think some of that is a social contagion, but I would not be surprised if 30 years from now we found out that all of these chemicals that we're putting into the environment, maybe that are endocrine disruptors, that are playing with our hormones, like maybe that has something to do with all the sexual weirdness. I don't know. I'm not a medical doctor, but I guess to your point, when you say, I don't need a study to show me that my brain isn't supposed to be 5% plastic.
Yeah.
Every generation, it seems, looks back on things that were common 25 or 30 years prior.
Yeah.
And the scientists say, oh yeah, actually it was a bad idea to, shove tubes up women's nose and scramble their brains up in the case of, Rose Kennedy-like procedures. Or, I don't know, maybe I assume artificial sweeteners are going to be killing all of us, or I don't know, all the plastics or whatever. So, but then does that raise a question for you? All right, the things that you're doing today, is there a chance that what you're doing actually might not be conducive to your health? Will you find out actually sitting on the electric chair is, I don't know, it's messing up your spine or something?
I'd say it's not 0%, but it's less than 1%, and I'm more than willing to take that risk and see what happens.
Well, the other thing I think that is important is we're doing all this while getting a lot of data. So we are constantly testing, and we have an unbelievable amount of data that we're then having looked at by our medical team, medical doctors and physician's assistants. So if something is going a little bit awry, because we do sometimes do therapies that are a little bit more cutting edge, then we can look at our biomarkers and our data and see exactly what's happening. So, doing kind of more innovative stuff might not be for everyone, because you do want to be able to keep a really tight look at what's going on inside your body so you can change.
Like, for example, you should every 2 years do a full body MRI scan just to catch anything and see what's going on. Like that, there's no risk there. From doing it, and you could catch something right away. And a lot of people, unfortunately, they will get these they would get this news from their doctor, and had they known maybe 2 years ago, they could have addressed it and fixed it. And it's so sad because we're not doing that.
Right.
And we can.
An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, but it's very expensive. Is that what's holding people up, or is it just laziness or not paying attention, ignorance?
Well, we have a lot of friends that have the means to do that, but they're still not doing it.
Right.
So that's.
I barely go to the dentist. I have the means to go to the dentist.
You could do all these things, but I feel like you don't. Now, do you just not want to, or are you too busy?
I am too busy, but look, people make time.
Yeah.
I am very busy, relatively, I guess, but people can make time. So I think for most of it is, I just don't think about these things a lot. I don't care all that much. I might regret that 30 years from now or sooner.
Yeah.
But it's not top of mind for me.
Yeah.
I wonder, for you two, when you've got your routine, if you go on vacation or something like that, you can't do your routine. You can't do the sauna. Depending on what resort you're at, I guess. Does the particular care that you have, does it affect your vacations, your traveling to see family, your this, or do you just kind of work it in because you're more diligent and you plan ahead and that's that?
Yeah, I think we kind of just work it in. Like the routine on the road might look a little different, right? Like we're going to walk way more. Yesterday, I was in Miami. I walked to and from where I got some food. Of course, I had to make a couple calls and check, do you have anything organic? Or as soon as we'll land, we'll order from a grocery store, all the goods, and keep them in the hotel. Holidays, I've just pre-ordered and had all of our food shipped. And then I just personally made it all. It's a little bit different, right? Might raise a couple eyebrows, but for us, I think that we just feel so good doing it that we're all right with taking a little bit more time to plan ahead.
Yeah, it definitely affects travel and when we're not in our home with all of our creature comforts and all of our, what I would call them, health robots, it is a very different vacation. Yeah, for example, at the airport, if we want a water, it's okay, which restaurant around here has water in a glass bottle?
Yeah.
That's something not a lot of people think about, but for us, it's no, well, we found it, and then,
But once you get into the routine, now I know, at LAX, there's a place right when you walk into the United portal that does have glass bottled water.
Coffee.
So it's once you get it down once, it kind of becomes a lot easier.
Okay, now, not to bring up what would be a very sad subject to think about. Let's say this all works. You're 125.
Yep.
And, it happens in the flow of life. One of you goes. Yep. One of you kicks the bucket. Would you keep doing it? Would you keep up the routine? Or no, it's just a team effort?
I don't know. I feel like a big, inspiration for this whole thing is to keep my husband alive for a long time and myself so we can, have more time together. So that's a really good question. I think it would be hard for me at that point because I would have been doing it for so long to just stop. But
our life will have a whole other level of meaning with kids and grandkids.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think, I would hope we would keep going and, we would have to,
But the plan is that we catch anything, well before. So I don't plan on ever being surprised, right? Unless it's some freak accident, I don't know, you choke on broccoli or something, or, get hit by a car. But, from a health standpoint, because we're looking so deep, I don't anticipate, a sudden cardiac event happening.
Yeah, but our purpose in life is not solely to enjoy each other. It's to be a blessing to others and to, serve God. So it's that would be so incredibly sad if that happens. And, we're probably not going to die at the exact same time. So, one of us will go first.
Statistically, it seems unlikely that in the same nanosecond, you both go.
Yeah.
The control you're describing, of you saying look, I might choke on a piece of broccoli, God forbid, but I ain't having an unexpected heart attack. I will know when I am likely to have a heart attack. How much of this, even from a young age, 17 years old, you're type A, you start your business, how much of this is about you want good health? How much of this is about you want to serve God? And how much of it is about a very common human desire for control?
Well, I probably wouldn't be the best person to ask because I think, it feels normal to me now. So, I'm sure some of it is, right?
Because I find this especially with women, though it's true for men too. Women hate anxiety and apprehension. Women hate the unexpected. This idea when you say, I will not be surprised by how I go. Yeah. I see many of my female friends and relatives in you when you say that. I just don't want, women they want to immanentize the eschaton, to use a fancy phrase. They want it just, the lack of foreknowledge drives them crazy.
Yeah.
Men too. I'm not letting the men off the hook either. Yeah. But how much of it is control?
Yeah, naturally I want to say not a ton of it, but it could, it's very possible that some of it is related to that. I do like order. I do like, knowing what's coming. I'm not a big fan of surprises. So I'm sure some of it's playing in there.
I think the opposite is also worth talking about is, it confuses me how so many people are willing to not have control, because there's a healthy level of, awareness and we have the knowledge, so let's make a good decision. But that's not people's first instinct. Like as a culture, our instinct is, oh, you only live once, or have a second beer. You earned it, you worked hard, blah blah blah. And then it's like a communal, admission of we're all in this together. Let's all be unhealthy together. And we're like, okay, let's have a community of our friends and our network of people where we all are choosing to, not do those things. And but to your point, there is an unhealthy level for some people, and hopefully not us at times, where it's like, okay, is this like what is our why? Like, is our why still pure, or is it tainted with, is this an obsession? And it doesn't feel like an obsession, because if we miss, red light therapy for the day, like for me at least, it's not like, oh, that was.
It's not going to keep you up at night.
No,
it might literally keep you up at night, but not psychologically.
Exactly. Yeah. But no, I mean, I think you're really, you have a healthy approach of, you have a very great routine, but, if we have to, change it up a little bit, like we are on this trip, it's not like it's going to eat us up.
That is true.
Do your families think you're crazy, or are they on board?
Oh, pretty crazy.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I mean, we're more so trying to, tell them like, hey, have you tried this? Have you tried that? So I don't really think about how crazy other people might think we are, as much as how can we help them to feel better? Like I want them to live a long time. I love them, and but yeah, I mean, super, super weird.
Yeah.
And it's tough because we can't, at least for me, like I'm not going to be able to eat the same baked goods that I did when I was 10, because I don't want to feel like crap. And that's not a chore for me to not, because it's like 1 minute of like enjoyment, or 2 hours of feeling like sluggish and, I just don't feel
a minute on the lips, forever on the hips.
Yes.
That's what they say.
You're great with those idioms. Yeah. I got to get better at that.
That's really my favorite store of knowledge, is just old timey kinds of idioms. But that does mean that you can't have grandma's chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah. Or maybe just one bite. Well, she's not looking. No, just kidding. No, I mean, I just don't have a desire to eat it anymore. I just don't feel good. Like, do you ever have a day where, you have a bad meal at lunch and you just feel like crap?
Oh yeah. No, I'm taking a little bit of the other side here just to suss out your points. But I find now, if I have a soda, I grew up, that's all I drank. I didn't drink water, barely. I drank soda, or diet soda, or whatever. And I find now, if I have a Coca-Cola these days, I can't. It actually messes me up.
Yeah, you're done.
I could go out drinking whiskey. I could have a better next day than if I start slamming, 40 grams of sugar at a clip.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I get it. And I think there's actually something going on in the popular culture that is turning a lot of people in this direction, albeit not quite as far as you.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of ironic that the chief politician who's leading this charge is like a McDonald's aficionado whose blood type is Diet Coke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which, if that's who God uses for this, it's like, okay, whatever. But yeah.
Well, it felt like too, once he was, really became acutely aware of the problem, it was something he was beginning to take really seriously. Just the health of our nation. I mean, we need to, even on that level, I think, be competing a little better than we are.
People say they go to Europe and they say, oh, I felt so much better.
Yeah.
And part of me thinks, the reason you felt better in Italy is not because they have better prosciutto. It's because you were actually out and about walking in the sunshine. You weren't stressed about your job.
Yeah.
You were getting a lot of sleep. I actually don't think it's the magical mozzarella or something like that all the time. However, the foods are different. So how much is it the one or the other? I mean, you've, I assume, have looked into this more closely than the average tourist. What needs to happen to the American food supply? Dictator Kennedy is in charge. What nuts and bolts has to go down to make America healthy again?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more regulation in terms of what can be in the food supply, what can be in cosmetics and personal care products. I mean, I think that would be a great place to start. Let's do some testing on these substances that we're adding to all of our foods and spraying on all of our foods, and see if they're safe for humans. And if they're not, whereas Europe, they kind of say you're guilty until proven innocent. So prove to us that your product is safe. And here we kind of say you're innocent until you're guilty. And that could take 30 years, red dye, this has been on the docket for so long.
30 years or something.
And finally, we're at the place where like, okay, now we're mandating that you take it out. I mean, we already knew that for so long. So if we adopted that sort of thinking, I think that and like better labeling, so there wasn't so much confusion, then I think that would be a great start.
Yeah, I'm very pro-capitalism, but unfortunately in the MAHA, sector, the incentive for profit has created enough pernicious incentives where we do need more regulation to keep companies from spraying everything with glyphosate and just, messing everything up. Because, what food is what you put in your body to live. That's not something that we shouldn't ever think about. I'm not saying we idolize over it because there is an extreme, but I'm really excited for the MAHA movement because now we're actually able to, have a moment where it's like, okay, let's change how we are as a nation because we should be the best. Like we're America, we want to be the best, but like in this realm, we are on the bottom.
Now, not to be too conspiratorial.
No, do it.
But how do we end up here? Is it just the simple profit motive for the businesses? Is it the fecklessness of the federal regulators? Is it agency capture, like the food industry has just bought off all the regulators? Is it that, the Illuminati actually want to trans your kids with microplastics in the fruit roll-ups? What, on that spectrum, where's the reality of our food crisis?
I think the first three are going to be the vast majority. I do think it is,
Spoken like a member of the Illuminati trying to trans our kids.
Yeah.
You think it's the top three?
Probably. It's hard to answer questions that are asked in like a binary way when it's usually a little bit of everything. It's a very nuanced issue that's not super easy to figure out. But there's a lot of lobbyists are messing everything up. These companies have no accountability. People are paying it's just there's a lot of nooks and crannies that are just very bought and corrupt.
Even if I think you have one example of Bayer Pharmaceuticals owning Monsanto. So, the same company that is developing the majority of the seed in the U.S. and then also spraying the majority of glyphosate onto those products, then is owned by a company that then can provide the pharmaceuticals. So I think that having a little bit better, and I'm definitely not for more government involvement, but I think when it comes to our health, and it's important to have some delineation there, because it feels like to me, just, this is just my opinion from an outsider's perspective, that there's too much power in that relationship.
And this is good. I'm going to look like a big dummy here why is glyphosate bad? I know red dye is bad. And I know microplastics are bad. Well, what's the matter with glyphosate? What is glyphosate?
It's Roundup.
Yeah.
Okay, Roundup. Yeah. Okay, my wife, sweet little Elisa, did tell me Roundup is bad.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, it's been proven to be a known carcinogen. So, some states are a little bit more aggressive with labeling, and like California, actually, that is one good thing that we can say is they've kind of have labeled that. But we now know that, and I think 98% of Americans have glyphosate in their urine sample. So it's something that is concerning.
Yeah, it's a toxin, it's a carcinogen. You spray it on crops to kill weeds.
Yeah.
So obviously it's going to penetrate the cell membrane of the produce, and as you consume it, your body's going to take that on. Like your body takes on everything you put in it. Even like lotions and stuff, like soaps or shampoos, it impacts your body. It's like to a degree which is greater than what most people would think.
So should I not use shampoo either? I've heard some people say I shouldn't use shampoo.
This is a great conversation.
You have a good head of hair. Are you're telling me you don't use shampoo?
We have a beef tallow. We have a tallow thing, right?
Tallow. Everything's got to be made of tallow now. Me too. My wife makes me buy a $500 stick of deodorant that's made of, college-educated, grass-fed beef tallow.
Yep.
What's so good about tallow? Why is it tallow in everything now? My chapstick is tallow.
Yeah. It's like a one ingredient, multi-purpose gift from God that people forgot about.
It's just beef fat.
Yeah, it's just beef fat.
We were told, my whole childhood, I was told that's like the worst thing that has ever been produced, and I need to avoid it like the plague. And now I'm told it's the only thing I can put on my body.
Yeah, and you were told that because of marketing from those companies that had a very clear incentive to keep that from you. And I mean, even the whole food pyramid, this is, very much so common knowledge, but it's completely upside down. Like literally, it's just flip it.
This is something that actually, I guess it didn't really occur to me until you were saying this now, but this must be the cause of the Maha movement. The ultimate, if you had to identify one thing, they lied to us about the food pyramid for decades. And it was exactly wrong. It's not even like they just messed it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Like it actually, the thing you were taught in middle school, they're just like, oh, oopsie daisy, it's actually like this. You think, well, you guys don't know anything. What else have you been lying to me about? To what degree is this health movement part of, wow, I mean, you're actually kind of just explaining it even with that one statement. Like, why is there a Kennedy associated with Trump? Oh, because the same motivating factor that gets people to vote for Trump, namely, we don't trust any of the institutions anymore, is the reason that we don't trust the food, and we don't trust the pharma, and we don't trust Dr. Fauci. It's all kind of the same distrust.
Yeah.
Which is why, the Daily Wire and your show, for example, people like you are so important because we need people out there seeking truth and giving it to consumers in a way that isn't tainted by these big organizations that buy and pay for everyone. So we need people like you around for a lot longer. So please, maybe like the future Michael will, be better with like.
You're telling me, all right, listen, I might order the treadmill desk.
Yeah.
I might order it as we walk off the set today. You are half convincing me that I need to exercise a little bit, and even down to being bought and paid for. We have actually crafted on my show a slew of really great sponsors for the kind of foods that my wife makes me eat, because I know the moral hazard of, if it's all just the junk food, you're going to be less inclined to state the truth as you see it. So now it's all like great beef tallow chips.
Yeah.
That rocked my world. I might die penniless because of the tallow deal, but it's all worth. That stuff is all worth it. You actually do feel a lot
Carnivore
better.
snacks, those are good.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Wow. You've actually really. Where do I buy the hyperbaric chamber? Where do I order that?
Base.
Amazon?
Yeah, we like ours is one base, so there's a couple of companies.
Yeah, I mean, your website, KaylaBarnes.com, it has like 100 products that we use every day that we're obsessed with. But the hyperbaric oxygen chamber, that's like the biggest purchase there. So, that's might take some more like, thinking, maybe talk to your wife about that first.
I shouldn't just order it right now.
Probably.
Say, honey, move the bed out of the room. I've got a new piece of furniture.
It's right next to our bed in our room.
Is it really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'll get the treadmill first. Maybe I'll buy like a dumbbell.
Love that.
Yeah. But I don't want our lives to seem so out of reach where it's like, oh, we want everyone to live like this. Like we're aware, not everyone's going to, but some of these small changes that, you can do that you're not yet will get you halfway there. You don't have to be all, kind of, crazy like us.
It's honestly like even more than halfway. I think if you really perfected like diet, sleep, all the things you do every day, right? So we eat, we sleep, we drink, we breathe, and social connections also really important. So if you can perfect those things or really master the basics, you're going to be like 90% there in terms of health. It's just doing those things on a daily basis.
Yeah, your schedule's tough because you're working after the kids go down till like 11 or 12 at night. So that's the tricky part where it's like, okay, how can you go to bed at 10 and not midnight?
I just have to be more efficient.
Yeah.
That's it. I got to chill out on the scrolling during the day. I got to, listen, there are things to do. Got to get that energy up, not just be mainlining coffee into my veins.
Yeah.
I'm taking responsibility.
That's good.
All right.
That's the first step.
Maybe I don't think I'm making it to 150, but.
Maybe 120?
Yeah, all right. It's good to reach for something. Thank you both for coming on. Where can people find out more about your work?
My website is KaylaBarnes.com, so KaylaBarnes.com. And my Instagram is the same. And I have a great female longevity community that's there. My company website, the clinic, is Live Wellness. And Warren, you can share.
And your podcast is Female Longevity Optimization.
Yeah.
Instagram, I'm at Warren Lentz. And then the sauna company is heavenlyheatsaunas.com, which is our current passion and is taking off. So,
but of all the things you've demanded that I do over the course of this hour plus, that is by far the most enticing.
Yeah. I'll shoot you a link because we have one where there's a red light panel built into the wall, so you could do 2 in 1. So for people that need to be efficient, 20 minutes a day, you get your red light, you get your heat therapy, and then you just, take a shower and you're done.
All right. Listen, you're selling me. Forget about the IV or whatever. I don't want that. But the sauna, I'm in. Thank you both for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Pleasure
much
is all.
for having us.